Well, good morning, America. This is Stuart Ryan with the Ryan Report, and today's subject for analysis is another cause for concern in America and the remainder of what might be a democratic society. The headline in the British newspaper, The Independent, a fantastic source, along with The Guardian, is the following. Hegseth's mystery meeting with top military officials from around the world is expected to be a pep rally. Report says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is expected to speak about quote-unquote warrior ethos and the Department of War, which doesn't exist, it's the Department of Defense, their rebrand. That's the headline. Now, this mystery meeting of the Secretary of Defense and every single general and admiral of the armed forces set for Tuesday at Quantico will now be attended by Donald Trump, according to a report in the Washington Post. This extraordinary and secretive meeting is taking place in eerily similar circumstances to those in Nazi Germany during August of 1934. And it's certainly an extremely ominous signal of things to come and suggests that the reported purpose is not what it seems, and certainly not as advertised. You simply don't withdraw every single field commander from all parts of the world, leaving us vulnerable to a disaster, to give them a pep talk about warrior mentalities and an illegal rebranding of the Department of Defense into the Department of War. Also reminding them of a purported 20% cut in field commanders in generals and admirals. Clearly, any fool should be able to recognize that it's meant to be a show of force of what the military now looks like under the president, or should I say Fuhrer, a White House official told CNN. This is just plainly blowing smoke up our collective asses. So really, let's just have a look at the German events before I extrapolate the possibilities based on the available evidence, trends, and the past experience of Nazi Germany. The Nazi timeline is as follows. On August 2, 1934, President Paul von Hindenburg died. On the same day, a new oath of unconditional loyalty to Adolf Hitler was adopted for the military. Previously, soldiers had sworn allegiance to the Weimar Constitution and the president. Context is that after President von Hindenburg's death on August 2nd, Hitler merged the offices of president and chancellor, declaring himself as Fuhrer. On August 19, 1934, a national referendum was held, and the German public voted to confirm Hitler as Fuhrer, consolidating the offices of president and chancellor and solidifying his personal rule. On August 20th, 1934, a law was passed, thank you, Nuremberg judges, that replaced the traditional oath to the German Constitution and state with a personal oath of loyalty to Hitler. The new oaths for both the armed forces and civil servants pledging loyalty to Hitler personally were formally decreed into law. The military oath was simple. The German army at the time, called the Reichswehr, swore a new oath that pledged unconditional obedience to Hitler personally. This was seen as a way to bind the military directly to Hitler and his goals. Get where I'm going? In July 1935, the armed forces were officially renamed the Wehrmacht. This was one of many changes enacted after the loyalty oath had already established Hitler's control over the military. Now, given this secretive kind of meeting, which is unparalleled in the history of the United States and the U.S. military, that Trump has previously fired his chief of staff, General Brown, and two others without cause or reason, threatens a reduction in general officer staff, has tried to federalize troops in two cities, created a private extrajudicial Gestapo-like police force in ICE, deliberately violated the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, has violated due process constraints of both immigrants and, in some cases, citizens, has in the past threatened the seizing of voting machines, led an insurrection when he lost the presidency to Biden, pardoned the criminals who participated in the violent interaction in the Capitol on January 6th, has tried to intimidate and ignore orders from the judiciary and punish free speech in universities and law firms with whom he disagrees by removing research grants from the colleges and security clearances from the law firms, and is currently beginning the prosecution of political enemies, and so on and so forth. This list is endless. Given all of that, is it not reasonable to extrapolate that this meeting is really about attempting to indoctrinate and intimidate and eliminate by threats of firings those who will not sign off, even metaphorically, on a Trump loyalty oath, replacing them with Trump supporters and sycophants who will follow orders just as the German military did in 1934 for the Fuhrer Adolf Hitler? Why would he require such a loyalty oath to him rather than to the Constitution? Well, because if push comes to shove, and his attempts through gerrymandering, limiting voter registration, and other machinations fail, and the 2026 elections are won by Democrats, he could rely on his military to follow his unlawful orders, come what may, over their oaths to protect the Constitution, and not to obey illegal orders repudiating the elections and taking military control over the various blue cities in blue states. And if merely trailing in the polls, he might very well invoke the Insurrection Act, cancel or invalidate elections, and have the military back him in accepting all unlawful orders in repudiation of the rule of law. Is this a pessimistic analysis? Yes, it is. Is it realistic? Yes, it is. Is it probable? I believe the answer is yes, it is. This is what we're being faced with in fascist America today. Please subscribe, hit the like button, share. Help me get through this algorithm, which is definitely either dysfunctional or seriously unfair.